Oh. Oh, I look a little tired today. That's my...
Whatever you got. Hey, Jay, you want a dinner room? Oh, yeah, I like this idea. Right now, who needs teeth? By the way, we just got a text. Apparently 100,000 people are currently stranded on ships around the world.
Oh my God.
Time to open her back up then.
Yes, it's not just a never-ending story, it's a never-ending buffet.
That sounds good.
But in August, you might have your chance to go. Don't know. But we'll be back after these words.
It's time we find out who is the champion of champions in all new 2-hour episode of Survivor. Leslie and Amy on Global. It gives me chills just talking about it.
Taking care. It's what the experts in Mopar Parts and Service do. And in these unprecedented times, that commitment has taken on new meaning. It means that we are here and open.
Morning.
Essential service and maintenance needs. We continue to go above and beyond to adhere to the best practices of social distancing and cleanliness, including a contact-free pickup and delivery option where available. Reach out to your Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram dealer, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Good morning, Albert. We will just, obviously, we'll wait a couple of minutes. So I hope you have your coffee or your water or your tea, whatever you're fancy.
Everything else is maintenance, and there's maintenance on pretty much every single right now. As I said, no real delays. For mental health tips and resources, visit camh.ca/COVID-19. A message from the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. I'm Daryl Fraser, Edge Traffic. All right, that's it for us. Thank you, Daryl. Stay tuned. Courtney's got a great show for you as always.
Where are you running off to with the buffet talk, wasn't it?
I'm gonna go and buy a baseball pitching, a sound pitching machine filled with those wire beeping machines.
I'm firing these into my mouth today, too. I'm hungry. We're talking.
Wow, Shara, have some respect.
We'll be back tomorrow. Speaking of cruises, it's USS Shipwreck. You're listening to the BT.
Good morning, you guys. Hi.
Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Alma.
How you doing?
I am pretty darn great. How are you doing?
I'm pretty great. Can't say darn great. Pretty great.
I was going to use something else there, but realized that this is being recorded, so.
This call is being monitored for quality assurance.
I forget that sometimes. Mm.
Hope everyone is doing well.
Yeah, me too. I feel like we're finally starting to talk about the good things, right? Kind of some normalcy again, whatever that will look like for a little while, and the sun is shining and all the good things.
Yes.
Yeah. Turn my radio down here in the background. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot sit in the quiet. I'm not very good at it, so I always have my radio on. Got to catch the news, you know? Hello, Rita. Good morning. I will wait just a couple more minutes, 9:59. Might have a few more people pop in, but either way. For those of you that are here while we're waiting, we have a David Greenspan who's coming in today. I think it's at 1 o'clock. Don't miss that one. He is a really cool guy. His company is, all about mind share and follow up in, this day and age. He's doing some really cool stuff in the real estate space. So super excited to have him in our virtual office.
Can I ask really quickly?
Yes. No, you may not ask. No questions allowed.
So when you did these slides and you build up the bootcamp, did you have to adjust a lot for the present situation?
Yes and no. So this one is relevant, regardless of kind of what's going on. The marketing one I had to completely do from scratch because we talk a lot in the marketing one about open houses, door knocking, farming, FISBOs, stuff like that. And we also talk about how to market a lot with just listeds, just solds, all of that. And a lot of that is like in-person contact. So I had to completely redo that one. The rest of them, I also did leave a couple of classes out. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Great, how are you?
I'm great. Actually, what did I say? Pretty darn great? Something like that, Alma?
You're pretty darn great.
Yeah, so Rita, a bit of adjusting, right? I'm also trying to be cognizant, like when I'm talking too. Things have changed, and I'm very fortunate that I've actually, for the first time in a little while, done some sales with family. So I've been, and friends. So I've actually been involved in the sale of real estate over the last 2 months, which is the worst time probably to do it, but it's been a really good lesson for me as well to bring in here, right?
Yeah.
Jen. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
The booklet for this.
Ooh.
Yeah, and
So
I missed the last couple classes too.
Everything should be up on, I know I look down like you're there, but I know you see me there. So everything should be on myremaxultimate.com.
Okay.
after this, I'll do a quick check, and if it's not, I'll just reach out to Daniel and ask him to upload the last couple classes, because we're recording everything and putting everything there for you guys.
Where am I looking? Is it under resources?
It's under resources or COVID resources,
Okay.
and then training, or I obviously don't have it in front of me. You can see my screen. I'm just trying to get this link for you.
Sorry, I'm
It's okay.
a little tardy lately.
I feel like we might all be in that tardy space.
Well, luckily I had showing, so it's been okay.
Yay. How are you feeling with your showings? Are you?
They're gonna buy. It's
that's
good.
good.
It's good. They're gonna buy. It's just, you know, one guy is looking for the deal of the century, which isn't gonna happen, but he needs to buy something.
I was just reading an article on that earlier this morning about, you know, that kind of deal, which I think we all thought would probably be able, like, would probably happen during this, but I just don't think that's really a possibility anymore.
I agree. I totally agree. There's the market, as scary as everything is, things are stable. It's not, you know, some people that need to go, they're reducing their price big time, but otherwise I'm not seeing a huge adjustment. It's just less competition.
Yeah, I actually last night from about 4 till 9, I did nothing but pull stats. So I pulled like week by week from March the 2nd, which was like just kind of pre-COVID.
Right.
And I did about like 10 neighborhoods in and around like the GTA. And no, other than condos, because condos have been hit a little bit harder in terms of like just showing, because obviously some, you know, can't get in. Price on some of them, like some were like 6 to 8% kind of down,
Right.
like from then till now kind of, and they fluctuate throughout the weeks as well. But townhomes, houses, not a price drop really.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And listen, if at the end of the day, the condos that are down a little bit, they're so inflated.
Yeah, for sure.
Going down a little bit, they're coming back down to earth a bit.
Yeah,
but they're still high. Right. I'm having trouble finding.
So I just plopped that the booklet for this particular class into the chat. So you should be able to all see that and access it. Here, let me just, sorry you guys, I know you can see my screen, so, but. So that is you can see that my Remax Ultimate, right?
Yes.
Okay, so resources. No, I clicked the wrong one. I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna grab the link and.
There we go, right here, Jeff. So training. I actually don't know how next.
Oh, I got it. I went to the.
Okay, there we go.
The boot camp. Or I went to the link that you sent me, and I just.
Okay. So all of our training, I mean, it looks like we need a couple that need to be uploaded, but they all should be here. I'll just, I'll send Daniel a note after class. Okay. Aside from that, does anybody have any questions or anything before we kind of get rolling here? I love this class. I know I say that a lot, but if you guys really know me, you know I mean it.
You didn't mean it before?
No, I do. There's like, I mean, I don't know. I like to learn. You guys know that. I also like to look at proven strategies, like things that have worked for multiple people over the course of time. And that's really what we're looking at, like with this, this whole boot camp is everything that has worked for Remax and Remax agents pretty much since, the beginning of Remax, right?
Right.
So, and this class in particular is super effective, obviously, given what's going on right now. Pricing's always important. Pricing's always hard. But pricing right now for listings really needs strategy and really needs definition. We're not in that space of, many multiple offers, although some might still be getting them. Also, we need to be cognizant of the fact that underpricing, although it's true, it really does work. It does generate activity and generate offers. We need to be careful of that right now for public safety, right? We don't want to have, 20 people rushing into a 1-bedroom condo because it's, underpriced so significantly. And then that puts, 20 plus people at risk, right? So what we'll talk about today is a strategy, how to kind of price something appropriately. Yep, go ahead.
Very, very, very quickly. And I was just curious about like Jeff's input. He's that he's actively looking, and most of my buyers, and I think most of the agents buyers are on a pause. I saw an interview with Sam Zell this morning on Bloomberg, and obviously they looking at the US market, and I don't want to go into, hi, Sarah. I just saw the other camera going on. And, but I experienced the same thing as well, that as like the market actually shifts and switches as we go. And basically what I see is that buyers starting to have these expectations for the prices to drop. And sometimes they have like a little bit unrealistic expectations for like, oh, we're going to make a deal here. We're going to make a deal here. And sellers have the expectations, the prices not to drop because it's been only 6 weeks, not so much time shifted. So they don't have, I think the two things don't meet at this time. And that's why I was happy to hear Jeff's feedback that like, there's no competition, the market is going, and basically the sellers dropping the prices as they see the feedbacks, as they see that nobody's going to buy you the house that you're trying to sell for the price that you put it into.
I agree with you because like currently now for one of my specific buyers, he's a builder. So he's looking to buy, hold on to it for a year. And during that year, he's going to get his permits and then he'll knock it down and build something. So in the meantime, he's the type of guy that is the unrealistic buyer that wants a 20 or 30% haircut saying, I buy wholesale. And I say to him, well, no, you don't. This just, you're not buying wholesale here. But then you have on the other side, you have sellers that are still being unrealistic. For example, there's a few specific properties. So there's certain criteria that he needs: flat land and certain amount of, room behind the sidewalks, blah, blah, blah. So yesterday I spent all day going through expireds, but, identifying all the ones that work for him. And I did something, Jen, you may or may not agree. Instead of calling expired, I called the agent that even if they had it listed a year ago, I called them to say, hey,
that's great.
Do you still have a relationship?
Yeah.
So for me, calling expireds and knocking, whatever. I called the agents and half the agents were like, yes, I still do. That's incredible. So where I get to
fantastic way to do it. Yeah.
It's a small world. You screw people, you'll get the check.
Absolutely.
So the sellers, one in particular, it's been on the market 180 days. They took it off the market. They live in Kuwait. It's empty. It's been empty for 6 months. They've decided to finish the basement and update it so they could sell it for more. I said to the agent, you had it listed at 1.6 and change for 180 days. You didn't sell it. Oh, well, we had an offer. Yeah, you didn't sell it. And they want more now? Come on, give it a rest. So at the end of the day, the sellers are still trying to get their number and trying to get a good price. But the ones that have been on for a while, those, there's room to play because the market's spoken. But what I've seen, because I sold one in Bowmanville recently, that if you're at a realistic price, you are going to sell. Hands down.
But that's
Mhm.
very
even in this
true
market.
in any
And
market, right? It's the question is like, because this is a pricing bootcamp, like my question is like that when your seller is trying to price on a shifting market,
Mhm.
what's realistic?
Yeah.
well,
Well, that's
I
what we're gonna like talk about today, right? Is how to really, you know, figure that out. Because I think that a lot of agents don't necessarily know how to look at everything, like in a shifting market. And Barry Lebo, most of you know who Barry is doing a class for us on Thursday as well, and he's going to talk about, you know, a couple of specifics because he's been through a few shifts, right?
went through the Great
Uh,
Depression in 1920. This guy's been around so long.
I actually think he put the Great Depression on one of his slides that I saw yesterday. So, you know, that like that's what we're looking at this week, right? Is how to have these conversations because they can be a little bit harder, a little bit more uncomfortable, where you've got to be a little bit more honest, you know, than kind of saying, sure, we'll try it at, you know, $7.99 or whatever it might be. This is not really the time to be doing that, because we know that things are going to look different next week than they look this week, right? So yeah, that's like exactly what it is, you know, that we're talking about. But it is difficult because there is that different expectation between the buyer and the seller. Buyers are going to assume that there is a deal to be had. And again, totally honest, I actually thought when this all started, there would be a couple deals to be had. And that is just not really the case. Again, I really hammered down on the numbers last night. And there's no real dip in prices when you're looking at averages, right? There might be the one-off here and there depending on the situation. And again, Barry is going to talk about that on Thursday. But yeah, pricing is difficult. I think it is anyway. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is in pricing now. I mean, you'll get into this stuff, but it's what we talked about yesterday. You know, I mentioned it before. The beginning of all this, everyone was scared. Oh my God, batten down the hatches. The world's colliding. Then we shifted to protection mode. Now we're shifting to the impatient mode where people are impatient. You see the activity again and people are starting to go. So that the activity will start happening. The multiple offers. I've already seen a few agents in like Richmond Hill and Aurora list for multiple offers.
Oh, that makes me very nervous.
Oh yeah, they're
like for
ridiculous.
Public safety, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't agree with the multiple offer thing now. I don't like it in general, but it's a fact of our business. But
I mean,
everyone's
right,
impatient.
buyers are out there. I was out on Sunday. My cousin is looking to buy, and you know, they're first time home buyers. Their lease is just about to you know, come up, so they need to get into something. And they're younger, so they're not as nervous to kind of get out and in public. Now we're, you know, mask, gloves, wipes, all the stuff. But I did see a number of people out. Everybody that I saw was, you know, covered and doing all of the things, but I did see, you know, quite a few buyers out there. And again, no real deals. One that we saw was listed for $649, thought it would sell, you know, probably maybe 20 under that, and sold for $645. So, you know, like just not a deal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to dive into the class. But you know, I love chatting and questions and all of that good stuff. So don't make me sit and talk to a computer screen for the next 45 minutes. I can't wait to get back into a classroom. We can like see each other, and you know, it's just not the same to learn in this environment. Okay, but all that being said, pricing, whoops. I know you can't see my screen, but I can. Hang on. There we go. That go into play version for you guys?
Yeah. Hey, Jen, I'm having technical difficulties, so I'm going to restart.
Okay. No problem. We'll see you soon. And this is recorded, so you can see the beginning of it. Okay, so if you've been in the Spark classes, you know that we kind of have these beliefs. We talk about the listing beliefs, the buyer beliefs. These are the pricing beliefs, right? Number one, inform people, make intelligent decisions. So again, providing that information for our sellers. Pricing home is not an exact science. We just talked about that. Pricing homes is neighborhood specific. This is more important now than ever. You know, agents will call and say, what do you think about this particular price? You know, well, I have no idea about the neighborhood. So I don't know, right? I need to know kind of what's happening in that neighborhood. So there's number four, there's a difference between value, price, and entry point. Entry to the market point. We'll talk about that. Number five, buyers determine the value. Number six, sellers determine the price. Does that make sense to everyone? Can see some head nods. Number seven, competition determines the entry point. We'll talk about this as well. Number eight, the pricing game is all about justification. So you have to be willing to justify or be able to justify that price. Number nine, sellers' needs can never be used to justify the value of the home, right? So we talk a lot about the seller's needs, whether it's timing, whether it's finances, you know, whatever it might be, that cannot be used to justify the actual value of the house, right? Number 10, buyers seldom pay more than fair market value. We know that in an inflated market, that does tend to happen, but seldom in a balanced market. Number 11, price should never exceed value. Talk about that. Number 12, there's a difference between taking a listing and selling a listing. I think we all know that that is true, right? There are a lot of agents out there that will take it. And then there are a lot of great agents that will sell it, right? Number 13, there are opportunity costs associated with taking overpriced listings. Number 14, homes sell for two reasons. We'll talk about those. If you've been in the class, we already know what they are. Number 15, people have lived before this, basically saying this has been done before. You're not the first person to price a hard listing or in a shifting market. Number 16, it's unacceptable to leave the seller's money on the table. That is basically part of your job as a listing agent. Number 17, tangible tools trump all opinions. We talk a lot about opinions in this industry, you know, especially right now, given everything kind of that's going on. Everybody has an opinion about, you know, what might happen, what is happening, what could happen. But what we want to do is have tools over opinions for pricing. Number 18, people will trust and follow what you can logically and tangibly explain to them. Number 19, what's put in motion stays in motion. We talk a lot, I think that belief is in all of our classes. So when we start that pricing conversation, whether it's difficult or hard, once you put it in motion, it will stay in motion. Number 20, an appropriate pricing strategy supports that win-win working relationship, right? Which is what we want to have, right? We want it to win for them, means a win for us. So becoming a pricing strategist, if we think about it this way, so what do the sellers want? They obviously want to sell their home. Why do homes sell? Homes sell for two reasons, right? Pricing and exposure. Are homes on MLS properly exposed? They definitely are. Why do 40% of homes listed, and that's a NAR number from I think like 2017, 40% of homes listed on MLS expire because they're priced inappropriately, right? We know that. So who determines the price? The sellers, right? So do sellers have direct access to our MLS? They don't. They do now a little, but so why do so many homes on MLS, are they priced inappropriately or incorrectly? Right? And that is because agents fail to effectively advise sellers on appropriate price entry points. And that's what we were talking about, Rita, that difference between the buyers and the sellers right now, how to have that conversation, right? We need to have it, because if we don't, we're probably going to end up either doing all these price reductions or with an expired listing at this point in time, right? So your ability to price a home is not in question. What is in question is your ability and willingness to lead sellers down a path of self-discovery that ends with them taking ownership of the correct price entry point, which is key. So agents fail to effective, sorry, hang on here one second, you guys. I'm getting a notification from my computer. Gotta love technology. Okay, there. All done. Okay. So agents fail to effectively lead sellers to the appropriate price entry point because they lack knowledge, confidence, and judgment, and or they just don't care to do so. Right? So lack of knowledge is, I'm sorry, I know I keep popping in and out here. I'm gonna just do that. Sorry, you guys. Okay, so a lack of knowledge, and you know, we can take this kind of slide and what we're going to talk about right now personally. I don't want you to do that, right? We're all in the same boat. We're all in this together, right? But we do need to talk about our weaknesses sometimes, right? We do need to talk about where, you know, where we fall short sometimes. And I'm definitely guilty of all of these things throughout my career as well. And, you know, even, again, recently working with a seller and a buyer myself personally was actually really good as kind of just a recheck, like where am I on this list of kind of weaknesses or you know, faults, I guess. I definitely have them. So I don't want you to take this stuff personally, but you've also seen this out there with the other agents that you're working with, right? So facilitating intelligent decisions, right? That's what we really want to do. So if there's a lack of knowledge, that means the agent possesses incomplete information, right? So we're not equipped. We have insufficient tools or data with us to determine a pricing system. So typically somebody is unconsciously incompetent, and incompetent is a tough word, but we don't know what we don't know, right? And oftentimes a newer agent, you know, you don't know what you don't know. You know, you need to look at comparables, but maybe nobody's taught you how to really do that, right? So number two is a lack of confidence. So where an agent submits to a seller's demand, this happens all the time. I'm, you know, definitely guilty of it as well, because we want that listing. You know, we have bills to pay, we have family to worry about, right? Or we're competitive. You know, we got a little bit of ego. That's natural in our industry as well, right? But we have to have the confidence to bring forth the proper information. So lack of confidence can be when we're scared to have those hard conversations, and we perceive conflict in all disagreements, and that isn't the case, right? We fear uncertainty or not wanting to disappoint or be disliked, right? So we can either, in that instance, we either don't know the right questions to ask, or we just simply agree with everything that the seller says. So we're a yes agent. Yes, 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 sign here, right? The third one is a lack of judgment, right? So what I was just talking about, they are only thinking about taking the listing. So we're competitive, we're ego-based, we live in a world of scarcity where we don't know where our next deal is coming from, or we're worried about where our next deal is coming from. So we really, really, really need this listing. I've definitely, you know, been there as well. And all of this kind of comes with our business, right? And then fourth, the lack of caring, right? So the agent just wants to leverage the listing. We've seen this where they, you know, put a sign on a lawn and some iPhone photos on MLS. And what they're really trying to do is use it to generate buyers, right? Or generate new listing leads. And we've all seen those. So those are the different cases, right? Where we're not really making intelligent decisions ourselves, and then therefore not making intelligent decisions for our clients, right? So what is the role of an advisor? That's what we talk a lot about in this class, is that we are an advisor, right? So it's determine and justify the value and price entry point, right? So what determines the value? The features, the amenity, and the condition of the subject home, right? What justifies the value? The features, the amenities, and the conditions of sold and expired homes. So we look at the solds and we look at what's expired, and that helps us justify the value of this home, right? So what determines entry point, price entry point, where you're going to price it to go onto the market? So that's current market trends, right? So what justifies, or what determines, sorry, that was what determines the entry point, and what justifies it is the features, the amenities, and the conditions of homes that are actively and currently on the market. So there's a more effective way, right? Sellers will trust and follow what you can logically and tangibly explain. Better to tell sellers or to have them self-discover it, right? So we are, much like I am right now, right? We are monologue people in an industry of monologue where we're talking at, right? And it is so much more effective and better to have them self-discover. Self-discovery is the key. So what's the best way to lead sellers to the most appropriate price entry point is to change the perspective by providing a unique, logical, and proving pricing strategy, which is what we're going to look at. So that monologue versus dialogue, right? Presentations, which we all utilize that language, they primarily revolve around us telling sellers what to do, what we do for them. So they only work if the seller agrees with your opinion, right? Which we know is increasingly difficult, or if they're in a dire situation. So they need to sell, right? Unfortunately, a divorce or financial needs or expanding family, you know, whatever that situation might be. Besides, if you resort to telling, there's always going to be competing agents with more alluring opinions, right? So somebody that is going to go in and say, I'm going to market more, or I'm going to do less commission, right? Conversations, on the other hand, back and forth, revolve around asking questions, right? Which lead to a productive exchange of ideas. So in our buyer and our listing classes, we go through these conversations, right? These questions about how to lead the sellers down a path. We're going to talk about that today, obviously, specifically for pricing. So facilitating conversations using a complete pricing strategy is the only way to lead sellers down that logical path of self-discovery so that they know what it's like to work with you. So unique versus typical, we talk about this a lot as well. So sellers expect help with pricing, right? They know that when they call a real estate agent or they call you, they know that you're going to give them help with pricing. Yes, they have an idea in their head what their price is, but they do expect help with it, right? So the problem is that most listing agents use the same approach to pricing. All of us, right? We use the same approach. So in the seller's eyes, where all agents appear the same, cost of services become the difference maker, right? So if you appear the same as everybody else, the cost of your service is going to be the differentiator for that client, which is when they're going to say, you know, will you do it for 4% or 2% or 1% or whatever it might be, right? So how can you expect more commission if sellers perceive you as identical to everybody else because you're pricing in the exact same way? Now, obviously there's other factors here, you know, the marketing, all of that, but we're talking specifically about pricing, which really at the end of the day is what the sellers are most concerned about, right? They want the most amount of money for their property that they can get. So if they perceive you as exactly the same to others who charge less, right? How you need to separate yourself, right? So in order to do that, you've got to use a unique, logical, and proven pricing strategy. So the bottom line, if a seller's unwilling to listen, which sometimes they are, or follow tangible logic, you're obviously dealing with someone who can be defined as unreasonable. And so life's too short and costs are too high to be in relationships with unreasonable sellers, right? If you find yourself dealing with sellers who reject logic, it's best to just move on, right? Remember, you live in a world of abundance. Besides, history has proven that unreasonable sellers seldom get more with reasonable amount of time, right? So you have to be willing, you have to have your walk away point as an agent. And I know this is difficult. It's difficult when you're new. It's difficult when the market is shifting and we don't know, you know, what is going to happen. It's difficult if you've, you know, had a tough couple of months and you need that paycheck. But the reality is, if they're being unreasonable at the start, they're going to be unreasonable throughout the whole thing, and they're seldomly going to get more reasonable with time, right? So that's just time, frustration, and costing you money when you could be working with somebody that's willing to work within your pricing strategy. So this is the current approach, right? Most listing agents and thus most sellers believe pricing a home is simply accomplished by multiplying the average price per square foot of the home, right? We see this a lot in condos. We're just going by price per square foot. And it just, you know, it obviously doesn't work, right? The reason this practice is widely accepted and massively implemented is because it's easy and it's convenient and it can be calculated with very little information and with effort, right? So we talk a lot about stats, especially with what's been going on. You know, if you've been coming to Tim's meetings, he's going through, you know, kind of the showing stats from Broker Bay all the time and how important those are. But when we're looking at just price per square footage, which I know when we're talking about new home construction, we're a little bit different, but in our normal residential market, it's easy to look at that, right? It's very, very convenient just to do a quick look at the solds, what they sold for, what your potential listing is, and put that together, right? But the bottom part here, since pricing is the key component to selling a home, it deserves to be intensely studied, right? We get paid a lot of money for what it is that we do. And so we need, and our sellers deserve, you know, us to know our craft, right? Look at it intensely. So you've got to consider all of the things that actually should be considered. So just a little checklist, and I believe this is in the workbook as well. When you're looking at pricing a home, do you consider the features, the amenities, and the condition of your subject property? You probably do, right? Do you look at the features, amenities of the solds? You probably do. Do you look at the features, amenities, and conditions of those expired homes? Do you look at the seller's financial needs? The market trends for the conditions in that particular area, the features and amenities and conditions of the homes that are actively on the market, because that's going to be your competition. And you look at the seller's timing needs, right? So don't overwhelm your clients with a huge 40-page CMA that includes bar graphs and multiple pictures of homes sold, right? This is not only herd behavior, which we talk about a lot, Tim talks about a lot, but it's also mind numbing, right? It's a lot of information for them to look at. It's overload. Instead, you can distinguish yourself by presenting a unique, understandable, and complete set of pricing tools that revolve around crucial pricing considerations and allow for complete self-discovery by the seller. And that's the goal here, right? Is for the seller to really discover what it's going to be like to work with you throughout the process. So pricing fundamentals. The art and the science. So the art is leading the seller to the most appropriate price entry point, which is used by effective dialogue. And the science is the assembling, the interpreting, and supplying relevant facts and data. So relevant stats, right, which are the tools. So important definitions to look at: leadership, teaching others how to think so they can do what they need to do to get what they need, they claim that they need to want, right? An opinion is an unfounded speculation. The value is a home's worth justified by historical data. Entry point, the price that will net the most amount of money in the current market, right? And the list price, perception after review and analysis of pricing data. So, and we're gonna talk about all of those. So the only way to change the seller's perception is to involve them in the pricing process, right? A lot of times agents will just go in and say, here are the solds, here's your price range, right? We're not actually involving them in the conversation besides saying like, what do you think your home is worth, right? So list price must be less than or equal to value, right? If list price exceeds value, the seller's needs and or wants are being used to justify the price, right? So just read that again. If the list price exceeds value, the seller's needs or wants are being used to justify the price. So if a seller is saying we want to list at $799, you know the value is $750 or in and around there somewhere, and you're using their needs and wants to justify, and you list at $799, right? So it won't work because buyers don't care what the sellers want and need, right? We need to be able to help our sellers self-discover that without saying that probably directly to them. So as a real estate consultant, it's your fiduciary duty to help sellers assemble the plans and strategies that when implemented, and held accountable, will result in the satisfaction of their needs, right? We want their wants and needs to be met. That's how we get a win-win situation, but we need to walk them through it, right? As a result of thorough analysis, you'll be equipped with pricing knowledge well beyond that of the seller, right? The great thing about possessing this superior knowledge is not that you can give the answers, but rather you can ask the great questions, which in turn lead that sellers down that path of self-discovery. Yeah, there's a fundamental difference between you knowing correct price entry point and sellers accepting it. Sellers control the pricing decision. We know that. We know it's up to them at the end of the day. So just because you know how to calculate an appropriate price entry point doesn't mean your listings are going to sell, right? The only way your listings will sell is if sellers follow your logic and take complete ownership of that. So the proving pricing strategy that we're going to get into, the 7-step strategy that supports a relationship-based approach, right? So this is the whole point of Ultimate Spark, is that we are building relationships. We're not just taking transactions. We're not just looking at listings. We're not just trying to get the buyers to buy and the sellers to sell. We're actually trying to build that long-term relationship so we can build that repeat and referral business, right? That's what this is founded on. So the truth here is that if you don't value a collaborative approach, then this 7-step pricing won't work, right? It allows you to quickly become a pricing expert in any relevant neighborhood because it requires that you analyze all of the data relevant to correctly and strategically price that home, right? So here we go. The 7-step pricing strategy. I just want to do a quick time check. 10:38. Okay, so we'll go 20 more minutes. You know, I like to stop like at 11. Hopefully we can get through all of that by then. So the 7-step pricing strategy. So number 1, identify and gain understanding of the value ranges that exist in that neighborhood and area. I do think that most of us do this. We look at the solds, right? We look at the solds, whether it's in the building or in the neighborhood, whatever that might be. But step number 2 is, I think, missed sometimes. So test the logic using the expired listings. So let's look at those expireds. You know, that will give us a better idea of the value, right? If things have been overpriced and they're coming off the market, even if they're coming back on at a lower price or a higher price sometimes, depending on that agent strategy, we can use those listings, those expired listings, to help determine that value. So number 3 is use those in step number 1 and 2 is determine the value range most suited for the home or condo, whatever it might be. Number 4, strategically position the subject home within that value range, right? And then number 5, verify the price position chosen satisfies the seller's financial need, right? So you've picked a range, you've looked at the sold, you've looked at the expireds, and you've discovered or understood that it satisfies the seller's needs. Number 6, analyze all the homes that are directly competing with the subject home, right? Do you do this now? Do you look at what your competition is going to be? Because that's a vital part of this strategy, is to—
Can I have a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what's the difference between step number 3 and step number 4?
So determining the value range.
And strategically position the subject home within the value range. So like,
yeah, so determining the value range.
Anyways.
Yep. So determining the range would be like, okay, so this condo is in and around, let's say 650 to 700. There is the range based on what I've looked at from all of the solds in the building or in the neighborhood. And then I've looked at what has, expired, right? And I've, again, got to double check about going higher or lower, because we know that's a strategy for some people as well. So then strategically position it. So depending on their needs, which is, number 5, sorry, we're going to strategically place it in there, right?
Oh, okay.
Say 659 or 689. So we're in the range. We've determined the range. Now we're going to strategically place it in that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So number 6, analyze all the homes competing, right? So I touched on that. I think that's a step that a lot of agents, when pricing, forget to do or don't do. They don't look at what their current competition is. I'm super guilty of it as well, especially with something that I just worked with. So this was good for me to go through this. Number 7, determine the most appropriate price entry point based on their timing and their needs, right? So if we've determined where, we want that value to, or where the value is, now we're determining the entry point to start, right? The price entry point. So those are our 7 steps. We'll obviously go deeper into it, but it's not going to reveal a different end price than a typical CMA, right? It will, however, allow sellers to a better opportunity to discover what it's like to actually work with you and to discover the most appropriate entry point, right? Or end price, which results in fewer objections and more win-win. I think we all want fewer objections, right? We all want to have less of those conversations. So going through this is proven again through the history of Remax. This isn't just something that, you know, we sat down at Ultimate and put together. This is, you know, coming down from years of Remax being the number 1. This is where this is coming from. This is why it's proven, right? So adopting and mastering the 7-step pricing strategy will take a little more time, energy, and effort on your part. Now, this is, you know, when we talk about systems, when we talk about putting in the work, when we talk about going above and beyond, this is it, right? It does take a little bit more time, a little bit more energy. And if you're like me, I am not, you know, I'm not detail oriented. That's not my strong suit. I'm not numbers driven, also not my strong suit. So this is difficult. This is something that I would procrastinate on forever and ever, because it's difficult for me to do small steps over and over and over again, which is something that you have to do when you're studying numbers in a market. So when I, you know, look at the steps that I took last night, I didn't really want to do it, but I wanted to, because I wanted to understand kind of really what's happening at a micro level in a variety of different neighborhoods around the GTA. So it took more time, energy, and effort. However, like it says on the screen, it's the only approach that ensures 2 very important things. So the arrival at the appropriate price entry point and complete ownership of the appropriate price by the seller. So instead of us saying, okay, Mr. Bob seller, I will list this at $7.99 because you want to, and then we go 2-3 weeks, 2-3 days, whatever it might be, and it's not getting any showings. We know that if it's not getting any showings, or if it's getting a ton of showings and no offers, we're overpriced, right? So now we've got to go back to the seller and say, okay, we might need to, you know, do a price drop, right? That's a hard conversation to have, especially if we haven't already talked about it. But if we can, like this says, the second point down here, you know, get the seller to have complete ownership over that price, then we're in a much better spot, first of all, to sell, but then to have that conversation should we need to have it. Okay. So determining that value range. So you've got to possess a broad working knowledge of the pricing in the neighborhood, which is going to take more time, effort, and energy on your part. And this is how we do it, right? So step number 1 in determining the value is what somebody is going to pay, right? The value is not price. We know that, right? So we're going to identify and gain understanding of the value ranges that exist in that neighborhood. So step number 1 will be the most time consuming because it's where you determine why home brings certain prices, right? So your analysis of the value ranges will be much more in-depth and time consuming than your discussions with the sellers. We all know that it takes time, right? So the process begins by dividing the neighborhood into 3 basic categories, which actually Strategist does this for you if you use the stats button at the top. You know what I mean? When you're looking in a range, say you were like C1 and you wanted to look at, you know, 1-bedroom condos, you get the list, you select all the lists, you hit the stats button. In that stats graph, they give you the 3 ranges already for you. They give you the high, they give you the low, and they give you the mid range. So, and that, you know, basically says on the screen what breaks those down. I think we know that. This is the procedure, right? So you're going to create that custom CMA report. However it is that you do it, you can use the one on Stratus, or, you know, there might be one in the back end of your website. I'm not sure. But these are the things that you want to include, right? Your number of bedrooms, your lot descriptions, your closing date, all of that, right? So you're going to sort the newly created sold summary sheet. This sold summary sheet is actually something that you're going to keep in your tool house. This is something you're actually going to show the sellers, right? Which is, you know, all of this stuff in the neighborhood, those 3 points, high, medium, and low, which again can created by a click of a button on Treb. So it really, besides you going through the neighborhood and picking that, it really doesn't take that much work. Does everybody know what I mean about that stats button on Treb and all of that on Stratus? I'm going to assume so if nobody says no. Oh, I see a chat. Hang on, and I don't know.
I'm not that smart with Treb.
Oh, was that you, Jeff?
Yes.
I can't see the chat. I think I told you. Oh, and Gina says she doesn't know what that means. Gina, were you referring to what I'm talking about, the stats thing on Treb? Do you want me to show you? Do you want me to show you really quick? Kind of stop what I'm doing? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. So hang on here, you guys. I know you guys can all see my screen, so I'm gonna just log right into Stratus so you can see what I mean. Because this little this is key. Because if you guys are like me, I hate doing stats. This okay, so I'm going to do a quick search here. Maybe I should shut down some things in the background. Okay. I'm going to do, let's do condos that are unavailable, sold. Whoops, I want that freehold button off. Sorry, you guys, my computer's a little slow and my brain's.
Right now, we only see the presentation, so we don't actually see your screen.
Oh, you don't see my screen?
No.
I am super glad you told me that. Okay, you can see Stratus now?
Yeah.
Okay, unavailable, continue. Okay, so I'm going to, let's go C1. Let's go Dufferin Grove because it's somewhat nearby our office, my office.
Jen, as a suggestion, you may actually want to expand to just more than Dufferin Grove.
Yeah, let's do Bay Street Corridor because I picked condos, right?
Because when you pull up the stats, you'll see more of a comparison.
Okay, so we do Bay Street Corridor. We do, why is the sold date not on here when I chose unavailable?
Because you chose available.
Did I?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're right. Okay, so you want unavailable. We're looking at solds. Just doing the same thing again. Bay Street Corridor. So now we'll look at.
So you're on residential freehold.
Poor Jen.
Guys. See how much I hate numbers? Oh, because every time I go back, it defaults back to freehold again. Sale, unavailable, residential condo. We all there?
Yay.
Yay. See, this was literally me last night going through all of this. So Toronto, let's try this again. C1, Bay Street. We're on condos. we got the sold date. So I want to look at everything that's sold from November 1st to today. And I want to have 1-bedroom condos only. That's my list there, 142. Okay.
Mhm.
So, I mean, your search might be a little bit more defined than this, but in the spirit of what I'm trying to show that I've already screwed up a couple of times. So we've got condos, we've got Bay Street, we've got November 1st, 2019 to now. I only want 1-bedroom because that's, you know, my comparable that I'm looking at for this particular exercise. I choose all of them. And again, you want to narrow it down a little bit more, but see the statistics button? So that quickly gives a quick view of everything that's here. So that's the mean average, right? That's the median. There is the low and there is the high. So it didn't give the middle, my bad. But it still gives the low and then the high. Gives you all of the areas. You're too fast, where's the button? Right here, Gina. See my mouse? Statistics. So I click it and it populates that into a graph for me. So that tells me a couple of things, right? On the high end, which, you know, there's the list price, there's the original prices, there's the sold price. That tells me that the days on market for the high end were 98. The low end were 2. You know, I probably want to be, I mean, I took this to be middle of the line when I was looking at this, but there's the median, right? And then there's the actual average. So the average of everything, you know, that we've pulled. Is that, you guys have, does that make things easier for you when you're pulling stats? Pretty handy. Okay.
I didn't know it existed.
There you
That's
go. Learn something new.
Yep.
Okay. Also, you guys, just to check. So see how it says count 25 here? But you noticed on that list there was 142. It's because it only does see all 25 rows on this page are selected. If I want all 142 of those, we click that. We click the statistics button again, and then you get the whole 142. See? And it even breaks down, you know, over here, which ones are common element condos. But you know that sometimes these are listed incorrectly. But, you know, this is great for, you know, again, someone like me who is not numbers driven. Obviously, you just saw them, not detail oriented either. Sometimes those things slip by me. But super quick way. You're welcome. I'm glad that I was, you know, able to help. Yeah, super quick way to put stats together if you need to do a really detailed pricing strategy, right? Which again, in this market, you know, we need to do more often than not. So there you go. If you're, you know, following the 7-step strategy, or you're following, you know, your own strategy, whatever it might be, it's a great quick tool to get all of that information, right? So click back in here. Or I will try. There we go. Okay, so at the second point here, start that newly created sold summary sheet, which is just putting that, what we were looking at is basically can be a sold summary sheet, which has, oh, we still see Stratus. Oh, dang. So you're learning the ins and the outs of Zoom as we go. Now you can see the screen, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've put together that sold summary sheet. You can pull, you know, that stats button from Treb to fill all of that in. Where you might want to fill it in is where there might be gaps in the pricing. And we also want to look at the features, right? Because those numbers, even though they are hard and concrete, they don't talk about things like view. You know, we know that a lake view is going to bring in more or have more value than a non-lake view, or you know, a park view, something like that, right? So on your sheet, if you've got, you know, high, medium, low, and your subject property needs those extra amenities, you might have to actually go in and create this. But again, if you're creating this in Excel or whatever program, you know, once you've done it one time, you can just reutilize it for every property, right? Down at the bottom, the sold summary sheet makes it easier for sellers to identify obvious feature patterns, right? So if we've got, you know, if we're looking at homes in Richmond Hill, Jeff, and you've got a list of homes, oh, bye you guys. I'm just gonna leave it in this mode. Are you guys okay? Because when I put it in the actual play mode, I missed the chat. So sorry, I'll go back to that. If we're in Richmond Home and we're looking at a variety of homes in a certain neighborhood up there, you know, obviously things like a pool, that brings more value, right? Or a larger corner lot, something like that. So if you're putting those into this sheet, which you need to do, a seller can physically see the difference in value between, you know, non-pool pool, right? Typically we'll sit there and we'll go through the solds and we'll flip through our, you know, CMA or the solds that we've printed off, and we'll say, well, this one has a pool and this one doesn't have a pool. And we point that out to them and we tell them that. If we put it in a list form for them to look at, they can look at it very quickly, determine that information, right? That's the difference between that kind of normal CMA that we do. And if I'm not speaking to you, I'm not speaking to you, but typically as an industry, we do this CMA where we print off the solds, we take them in, we show them the color photos and everything, but it's hard for them to quickly look at that information. We have to tell it to them. We're talking, right? Going back to that whole idea of that monologue. This, they can look at and see. Yep, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
I have a big favor to ask. Is there any way we can get the creative ones at the office to do up a cute, ultimate, workable PDF for spreadsheet that we can just like populate, but it has all those things like permanent?
Well, I mean, it's going to be, I mean, yes, we can. I'm
not good at that stuff.
Yeah, me neither. We definitely can. In your workbook, there is it's obviously non-editable, but there is a sold price sheet in there, or a sold summary sheet. For those of you that are here later and you didn't get the workbook, that's the link to it. So there is a sold summary sheet in there. But the thing, so short answer, yes. Long answer, it might be a little bit different, right? Condos, pool doesn't matter. You know, home, lake view doesn't matter unless you're, you know, down on lakeshore or somewhere, you know what I mean? So you might need to change up the amenities a little bit, but that's definitely something that, let me just make a note so I don't forget.
Thank you.
Sold summary sheet.
Just like adding a little info, like when I do this for my clients, we just like open a Microsoft Excel or Google Sheet.
Yeah.
And you just enter every column is the one that on the procedure. So one column is MLS, one column is street number, one column is Strategist number. So all these columns you put in, and you basically that's why it's a lot of work. And that's why this is the most work.
It's a lot of work,
you have on MLS all the information, but what you need to do to be able to count square foot and to be able to easily place it into like a more creative way, because on my experience, like I'm a very beginner real estate agent still. But I learned in a hard way that like I try to be very accurate and I come with numbers to you. And after like 5 minutes, I kind of feel what you just explained, that clients are bored. Clients are not like the average
Yeah.
attention span of the
They
people
want
are
to,
8
yeah.
seconds. So you
They're
can
like, how much can I get? You know, what can I sell for? Right.
So the easiest way for me is that I quickly show them that I did this. I did the homework,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just make a summary for them, for example. But the easiest way for Jeff, like if he wants to do the hard way, is to do Excel sheets, columns, numbers,
Yeah.
and then just summarize the whole thing. Because even if you're not good at technical things, you can do an Excel sheet.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
gonna get my boss to do an Excel sheet for me because she's smarter than I am.
Well, and again, you know, this is something that we can, you know, maybe look at, you know, kind of like prettying up or doing like an editable PDF. But the Excel spreadsheet is the, you know, kind of easiest way to do it. And once you've started, you know, once you've done one template where you've got MLS, bedrooms, you know, view, pool, lot description, lot size, you know, whatever it might be, all of the columns, you've got that template for life, right?
Yeah, but you can't live with templates all over your life. I learned it's
No.
like it's something that like if you learn how to use like a spreadsheet in like a very beginner level, because there are like crazy advanced things in Excel. But if you learn that, it's gonna make your life easy. It's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I literally use now for Excel sheets for everything, even for my shopping list, because it's just the easy way to use lists. Any kind
In a
of
nice way, Rita, I have to say this: you scare me. I respect you. But you scare me.
I even did on the weekend when I was, you know, with my cousins, I did a full spreadsheet of everything that they wanted to see. We did, you know, all of the amenities and everything. And then what I did a private sheet of like all the stuff for me, right? Like, you know, have I talked to that agent? Did I find out that information? Again, just to kind of stay a little bit more organized. It's definitely helpful. And you guys just saw how non-detail oriented I am. Like I skip over stuff
Me neither,
because
honestly.
my brain is working quicker than anything else can work.
Yes.
Yeah. I get you. But Jeff, I'll look into it. I wrote it down on my list. We'll see what we can find out, because, you know, if we're going to do this, and Rita made a really, really good point that, you know, sellers skim over this. It's too much, it's overwhelmed for them. But the key thing is that we did the work, right? We show up as a professional and different than every other agent that they've ever heard of or ever talked to, right? We
Great.
put in the time and energy, and even though it is more work and it is time consuming and it makes the eyes go cross, for me anyways, some numbers oriented people love that stuff. You know, we do the work and we differentiate ourselves that way.
I agree. In a listing appointment, you know, I may not be a 30-year agent, but what I do is I bring all my stuff, my stats, my CMA, all that stuff, and I bring it out. I have it sitting on the table, and I go through my presentation, and as I'm going through it, I'm figuring out exactly what they're interested in, what they're not, and I kind of will. Some people don't want to see a full listing presentation. Some people do. Some people are stats driven, you know, on the disc profile.
Yeah.
So having a quick sheet that I can go, so look, here's what's this, and quickly skim over it if I need to. It's great. And some people may, you know, that are so inclined that they'll want to look at every single thing. So you have it. But if you have something really cool design that I can quickly refer to and then put it off to the side and then get going on to other things,
Yeah.
you know, it shows you've done the work. It shows that you're serious and professional.
Yep.
And if you have to refer to it, you have it.
Like in doing the work, you get to know your craft and the market so much better than, you know, kind of like the average agent, right? Who's just skimming solds, putting a price together, and then going to talk to
and that's the other thing. If I put something together like a CMA from Strategist, this is what's available for every agent. So most likely everybody else.
Everybody has them. Yeah.
Yeah, but not every agent will use it. A lot of agents are lazy.
Well, that's the thing. You want to differentiate yourselves from the hyper lazy agents who aren't using anything. You want to differentiate yourself from the agents that are using the TREB CMA by Alma. We're going to stop soon anyways, because we're kind of getting to the end of time. So we'll pick up next Tuesday, kind of right where we are probably right now, because there's still about 30 slides or so. There's a couple of other things that we need to go through. So, but yeah, Jeff, you want to differentiate yourselves from the extra lazy ones, and you want to differentiate yourselves from the agents that are just using the TREB CMA, right? You know, it's a good and fine tool for when you're just getting going, but you know, you need to, again, show up as that professional. You need to know your craft. This is your craft, right? The numbers are your craft. I've said it multiple times. I don't like it. I don't like to do it. But knowing this will set you apart from every other person, right? And also the other thing too, that we mentioned, the 2 points a couple of slides ago, is that doing this sheet helps them see the difference in their property, right? You know what sellers are like. They're like, but my kitchen is nicer. My, you know, backyard has an extra 10 feet. My, you know, whatever. They're emotionally attached to that property. And so they think it's better in their own mind, right? Not everybody, but I think on average, we can agree that the majority of sellers think their home or condo is better, right? When we've got it in a list like this and an easy reference format, they can see, no, this is, you know, this is where your property fits. Look what a property with a corner lot sold for, or an inside lot, or a pool, or a view of something else, or, you know, 200 more square feet or whatever, right? If they've got to flip through stuff and look through things, or you're talking and trying to point at those CMA sheets, it's difficult for them. And then you've lost them, and then they go back to thinking that theirs is better because XYZ. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm gonna guess thumbs up. Okay. Zoom, right? Love it / hate it. It's funny, when all of this started, we were like, we're gonna use it. This is gonna be the best thing ever. Now we're like, oh, this, you know, I miss the in-face or in-person dialogue. I'm going to stop there. We will pick back up next Tuesday right here on slide 29, because this is really, really important information, especially in this kind of shifting market. So I don't want to miss anything, but I also don't want to carry on and overwhelm when I know that we start to kind of, you know, lose after an hour. So I'm going to stop my share. Was that helpful for you guys? Awesome.
Very, very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yay. I love, even though I hate numbers, I love pricing, and I love strategy. So come to Barry's class. It's Thursday in the afternoon, 1:30.
Check on the schedule.
It's on the schedule. It's in the email, you know, that Tim sends on Monday. I'm so glad that was helpful. And, you know, if you have any questions outside of this, you guys all know how to reach out to me. Yeah, and I hope everybody's happy and safe and healthy and kind of looking forward now.
May 7th, 2:00 for
Thank you.
How to price properly during a shift.
Yes. And I went through, I chatted with him yesterday, and we went through the presentation, and Barry's hilarious, right? But he's been around forever. And he's seen a lot of markets, and he's a past appraiser and also on the legal side. So the guy's just a giant wealth of knowledge. So I'm really looking forward to that. And he's going to mirror a lot of the things that we talked about and will talk about in this course. So definitely show up for that. But we've got an awesome week of stuff. So you've got the schedule there, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jen.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.